Hello. So I'm super bored in lockdown and I'm thinking of making a video a day about something I find interesting. So I'm just going to talk. This one is going to be about something I recently learned about, and it's called the ego. And it's to do with the soul and happiness and that kind of stuff. So essentially the ego is something that's inside of us that pretty much everyone almost has in the modern world because of the way that society is working. And it's essentially when you associate yourself with something external, outside of yourself. And because you do that, you already have this subconscious insecurity inside of you. And it's sort of like we attach ourselves to titles such as I'm smart, or I'm gonna be rich, or something of the sort, or I'm always a kind person. And we attach so heavily to this notion that if someone were ever to criticize or to take away that notion from us, it would make us angry because we would feel insecure, it would make us feel upset. So the whole idea is that if you don't have an ego, you don't get affected by things because there is nothing that you are attached to externally other than yourself, and you are so comfortable within yourself that you don't need to attach to anything outside. So you're fine, basically, which I thought was really interesting. And what I learned is that I learned it from this guy, and he was talking about the fact that we have this sort of this stress complex, and that when the ego has desires, and when these desires aren't fulfilled, then we have different emotions. So when we lose a particular desire that we want, we get very stressed, or when we can't achieve it. When we have someone to blame for a desire that we can't have, we tend to see them as an enemy or a foe, kind of. And when we have no one to blame for a desire, then it can lead to depression. This is how the guy said it, which I thought was so interesting. And society doesn't help the situation because we feed the ego so heavily in capitalism. We are constantly believing that buying stuff is going to make things better, and if we have a better car, if we have a better mum, if we had a better family. And I mean, to some degree, of course, it's true, you know, having a bit of money does make you happier to a certain extent. Having a good family also makes you happy to a certain extent. But it's these attachments and these desires which are at the core of unhappiness, anger, sadness, etc. And so the ultimate message is that we have to release ourselves. We have to know that we're free from the ego. We can be free from it, and that we don't have to take every criticism. We should examine each criticism really carefully and think, is it my ego that's being hurt right now? Because most of the time it is. A lot of the time we get angry at things that people don't mean, but we interpret them in a way that hurts our ego. Which is why two people might get angry at completely different things, because their egos have been developed in such a different way. So if, for example, I have a really strong attachment to being clever, let's say, or to being rich, let's say being clever, but my friend doesn't really associate with knowledge in particular and doesn't really seem to care. So if someone called him stupid, he probably wouldn't mind because it wasn't attached to his ego. But if they called me stupid because I so heavily associate with being called clever, I would be more upset, and that's my ego talking. Because if I didn't have an attachment to that quality, then I would be okay, which I think is interesting. And the guy said all the classics, the introspection and meditation and really sitting with yourself and examining the ego every time you get upset are the keys to enlightenment. But who's really gonna get there? Honestly, to me, it sounds a bit boring, being enlightened. I don't know. I mean, it would be nice to not get pissed at the things that the people aren't actually trying to hurt me. I'm just twisting them because I'm seeing the tiny shed of light on something that I'm insecure about. But that's all. That's the ego. Hope you enjoyed it.